Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anti-Life Reviews. It is episode number 68 here with the Master of Minds and of Men. That is me, the Tono Makaya, Demon Peaks, whatever you want to call me. This month, March 2022, we're going to be looking at a huge Marvel crossover that kind of changed things for a long time, that redefined the space realm of Marvel, and that has often gone overlooked. So we look at the entirety of the original Annihilation. We're going to start with something that is only tentatively a part of it. When I look at Thanos issue 1 through 8, which ran from December 2003 to May 2004, I'll go over how all this ties together shortly, but yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Of course, before we begin, please subscribe, please like, share. I've already had a huge movement of support. I'm a fairly basic kind of reviewer, but I think I'm also fairly entertaining. And if you've been entertained, you are required to hit that red button now. Let's look at the writers and artists on this. The writer and artist for issues 1 through 6 of Thanos is Jim Starlin. I've talked about Mr. Starlin a number of times. He's responsible for a lot of my childhood favorites in comics, and ones that endure to this day. I believe I covered his run on Captain Marvel, as well as Adam Warlock and Strange Tales. I'm sure we'll see more of him eventually when I do Infinity Gauntlet or whatever. A great writer, a great artist. There's some caveats to that. He has his own issues. He's a little bit long-winded, to say the least, and he often can't handle small picture comics. He needs some giant overreaching scope for stuff to make it work. But overall, he's someone I really appreciate and enjoy. Writer on episode issues 7 and 8 is Keith Giffen. I don't know if I've talked about Mr. Giffen before, which is a shame as he's a fairly talented guy. He's more usually competent than overly good or bad in either way, which is a good thing when working in the comics medium, as consistency is kind of what you want. He also co-created Rocket Raccoon and Lobo, and he's worked on literally a billion comics from both Marvel and DC, and we'll see him again a number of times this month for me to talk about again. Art on issues 7 and 8 is Ron Lim. Now, Jim Starlin did the art for issues 1 through 6 that he's also writing, just to say that. Ron has a Jim Starlin-like quality to his work, which makes sense as they worked together a number of times, including some very high-profile comics. He worked on Silver Surfer Volume 3, which is my personal favorite Surfer run, a very dependable guy. Now, officially, Annihilation started with the Annihilation prologue in March 2006. But there's a lot of backstory and setup in both the previous Thanos ongoing, which I'm going to look at today, and Drax the Destroyer miniseries, which ran at various times from 2003 to 2005, respectively. So in the sake of being a completionist, I'm going to go over all of it until the end of the Annihilation mini itself. It's going to cover Thanos, Drax, the prologue, Nova, Silver Surfer, Super Skrull, Ronin, and the Annihilation mini. So that's a lot to get through. So let's go ahead and start off. Alright, Thanos, issue 1. I'm going to assume you all know who Thanos is, the Mad Titan, a deviant Eternal who has continuously plagued the Marvel Universe over various trinkets and baubles, such as powerful squares and the Power Glove from Nintendo. He's probably outside of maybe Doctor Doom, the biggest villain in Marvel history, especially thanks to the MCU. So Thanos has decided to change his ways after the events of Marvel The End by Mr. Starlin as well, when Thanos sort of reboots the whole universe. Peter David will use this concept in his Captain Marvel run with Genisville to much better effect, may I add, rebooting the universe. Much more interesting. Thankfully, Adam Warlock, Thanos' old enemy, is there to help out. They go and see a race called the Rigelians, who Thanos has harassed at some point in the past, and Thanos offers to help them in some vague way. Meanwhile, some black, weird eyes open. The eyes aren't black. The form is like a formless sort of void thing. It's watching what's going on. Oh boy, this reads like every Jim Starlin book ever. It was fairly uneventful, being mostly backstory. We get retold Thanos' full history, as well as Jim really keeps harkening back to Marvel The End, where the villain was a black, inky space monster with a weird face. He also used that in Death of the New Gods. He's really been doing the same story since Marvel The End. This was really a down point for Jim, and we're going to see that in this whole run today. Issue 2, they start out, and the art is garbage in all of this. The covers are bad, the insides are bad. Jim was really off his game on this. I don't know what else to say. The Rigelians aren't sure of what to make of this, and some of them attack Thanos and Adam Warlock. This goes poorly, and the Rigelians decide, hey, we can't stop this guy, so let's see if he can really help us. They take the duo to another one of the Rigelian planets, where we find Galactus sort of lingering on his lunch there, his lunch being the planet. This causes Thanos to decide to kill Galactus to help with the aliens we know shit all about. Whatever. This was continuing the mediocrity and slipping right into boring territory. I really had a hard time giving a shit. Thanos vs. Galactus should be awesome, and we sort of do see it later, and it's much more exciting than this in the Annihilation sort of minis. So yeah, meh in this. Issue 3, Thanos and Galactus fight sort of, it's telepathically. It ends with what is a stalemate, but then Galactus reaches into the Rigelian sun and grabs something, and it's a body with a soul gem on it. Interesting. And the weird pumpkin king face guy, the black inky guy, talks to Thanos. Once again, half of this issue is fucking backstory, Galactus' backstory. You don't need this. You don't need to know this. He's Galactus. He hates worlds. Let's move on. I mean, we literally get what is tantamount to 5-6 pages of actual plot. Pretty disappointing thus far. It looks like there is digital processing on this art, which works for this. The inside the consciousness fight actually is kind of cool. It looks a bit 90s, though. Issue 4, the first 10 pages are fucking backstory, rehashing the Infinity Stones, rehashing and rehashing. This is more rehashing than it is story. Galactus sends his robot minions to Adam Warlock's soul gem, and it's successful. Whoopity-doo, and Galactus is planning to open some kind of portal to another realm, but the pumpkin-faced guy is waiting as well on the other side. It's actually interesting. It's a shame it came 4 issues into a 6 issues arc. I mean, we have almost 1 full issue if we take the plot for these issues and smash them into 1, maybe 2 issues. There's just, Jim is a notorious over-explainer, and this is a perfect example. Issue 5, so we finally get an actual fight between Thanos and Galactus, which is pretty damn cool, but very short. It's only part of this issue, as the remainder is about Galactus freeing the snarky black pumpkin face. Snarky pumpkin face wrecks them, whatever, to end the issue. Oh my god, why is he snarky? Why is he so generic looking? This fight was cool. Galactus actually throwing dukes is not something you see very often. There's no sense of tension. There's no stake. This black thing will be gone in an issue. So, who cares? Issue 6. This episode wraps up this first arc by easily having Thanos overcome the pumpkin face guy with the soul gem, the actual soul gem. There's no tension, no nothing. It's handled in the first 10 pages. Thanos literally gives Galactus a lecture, a philosophical lecture. Galactus says he's James K. Polk with the Manifest Destiny. Thanos pretty much says, hey, keep doing what you're doing, pal, and we're going to meet again. The black spot guy might not be dead. Okay, fine. Pip the troll has been there the whole time, gets drunk. Thanos has him shot into space. I'm sure Adam Warlock will save him as we don't see Adam again. And Thanos muses to himself. Galactus doesn't have a shirt or a robe on and looks super generic looking. Like, this arc, I don't like it. I like the interpretation of Galactus that he looks like whatever the race of people he's going to eat is, or eat the planet. And we see him as human because we are humans. I rather like that. Story arc was hot garbage. It wasn't really that bad, I guess. Just this basic comic writing 101, not worth really reading. Skip ahead to the next arc, which is actually more relevant to Annihilation and much better. Issue 7. How to turn a comic series around in 1 issue. Here's the lesson. Thanos turns himself into an alien police force. And there is a great humor here right off the bat with the cops freaking out and shooting Thanos, but it doesn't do anything. He kills a Skrull intentionally, so they have to arrest him and put him in the Klyn. It's Klyn. I don't have any idea. I'm going to say Klyn, but it's probably not that. It's a sort of hyper battery on the edge of the universe with like a hole in dimensions next to it, but it's also the most secure and dangerous prison in the universe. Why Thanos wants there, we don't know. Then after he's taken there, Death comes to him, his former lover of sorts, and she's a little girl now, and they have an absolutely brilliant conversation. She talks to him. All these years she wouldn't speak to him, now she does, and he says to her, now you speak, and she says, now I have something to say. And he goes, if I don't want to hear it. They go on for a little bit, and he says he doesn't serve her anymore. She says he never really did. He claims he did everything for her, gave her everything. She says, what have you ever given me but death? Did it ever occur to you that death would be the last of my needs? That I might know desire past my essence? Thanos is incredibly uncomfortable that she wears the body of a little girl. She says, I am death. I am not of comfort. And in the end, she tells him, I've always loved you, Thanos of Titan, to the extent that I am able. Learn how to love thee. I am well worth the effort. He says it's good to know. This was an awesome issue. Front to back, well-paced, the art was fine, Thanos looked awesome, everyone else was okay, the aliens were wide and varied, it felt like a mishmash, which was good. It made sense how no one would notice a giant purple Thanos he's wearing like robes and covering his face. because there's a lot of aliens that look loads of different around him. We're presented with a mystery. Why is Thanos doing what he's doing? What does he want? Why this place? It's incredibly intriguing. I'm sucked in immediately. Keith did a great job. This was a 180 from the past 6 issues by a long shot. I enjoyed this characterization of Thanos. This is him not meandering around. He's scheming, but it's almost altruistic. At least in his mind, he thinks he's right, as usual. Had a reasonably good humor Keith is well known for. Good issue. Issue 8, the cops debate that they should have killed Thanos as if they could. Local gangs inside the prison also want to test this new guy, which goes about as well as you might expect. Thanos is then told about someone called the Maker and befriends a man named Cleric. He's taken to see some familiar people. Star-Lord is there, Peter Quill, as well as the Shi'ar Gladiator. Cool to see them. But the Maker is Cosmos, who was the Beyonder and Molecule Man merged with the Cosmic Cube. It's kind of confusing, but she's very powerful, nigh invincible. Leads us to know that there are some faction wars, with the Maker leading one faction, and presumably these guys sort of vaguely leaving the other. Thanos wants none of this and leads the Cleric to presumably talk to the Maker, if he is able. Simple issue that established a lot. We get the plot moving along. Thanos wants to meet the Maker. We get who the Maker is. We get lots of new people, old people. It was light. There was enough action to go around. Another really good issue that makes me want to read more of this, despite having read it before. So please check back next week when I finish up this arc. So the overview. So when I say this, it has become sort of my catchphrase, mixed bag here. Jim Starlin failed here conclusively. He frankly hasn't written Thanos well since Infinity Gauntlet, and that was 1991. He needs to stop. He has essentially stopped writing Thanos, so whatever. But Keith Giffen killed it, nailed it. 2 issues, just loved him. I recall really liking this series, and then I got into reading it again, and I was like, well, this sucks, but why did I like this? It was because I liked the second part, and that's kind of where I have to hang my hat. Keith understood that the nature of the story and what it was about, a kind of redemption for Thanos, and he did. He stripped him down, no fancy clothes, in jail, not degraded in so many ways, but a pilgrim on a spiritual journey, like a space kung fu with David Carradine. Hopefully Thanos will make sure the belt is a little looser. But it also had this kind of humor. Humor in comics doesn't always work. It barely works. But Keith has always been good at throwing little fun gags and understanding a panel's progression and how to land a joke, and he did so here. So overall, we got the very tip, just the tip, of the Annihilation story. Started with the last 2 issues of this Thanos series I covered, but there's lots and lots more to go this month. Well, that was part 1 of my Annihilation month here on Anti-Life Reviews. What do you think of these issues of Thanos? Disappointed? Happy? Do you think Jim Starlin still has it? Let me know down below. Don't forget to my Patreon and let me know what you want me to review. Please check out my Instagram at Demon Peaks for daily Twin Peaks memes, as well as my podcast, the Dark Peaks Podcast, where I talk to another guy mostly about crack cocaine. Not stuff you want to miss, kids. Next week, more Annihilation as I finish up Thanos with issues 9 through 12 and look at the limited Drax of the Story series, all 4 issues. This has been the Tono Makaya, Master of Minds and Men. Thank you very much, and goodbye.